He will implode. All right, we're still debating Trump here, but we have frequently profiled issues in the East Ramapo School District where Orthodox Jewish leaders are at odds with their neighbors over school funding. But that is not the only place in our region where these forces intersect and lead to controversy. Kiryas Joel. It is another all-Orthodox community in Orange County, just 55 miles from New York City, to give you a frame of reference. Hasidic rules, they are strictly enforced in the village, which is much more self-contained than similar communities in Rockland County. Now, the village, it wants to expand, but the state legislature passed a bill giving the county more oversight over their land and annexation plans. Now, a bill that was just vetoed, I may add, by Governor Cuomo. So I'll ask the basic question. I'll start with you, and you're back in the legislature. How would you have voted on this? And if you were the governor, if it came to your desk, would you have vetoed it?
The laws that apply to everybody should apply to Orthodox Jews, African Americans, Haitians, and everybody else. There is one set of laws for everybody. Where those laws are abused by a community, there's a role for the state to step in, but you don't change the laws for one ethnic group.
Gray?
Definitely. In terms of, we saw, and I know this is a bit different, but Staten Island tried it a few years back, totally succeeding from or pulling away from New York City under David Dinkins. I think it was under Dinkins, and that didn't go anywhere.
Right,
now, yeah, and I mean, I know that's a totally different circumstance, but I agree. One set of rules for everyone, and if you want your own village, does that mean that you're going to forego tax dollars? I don't think so.
I think we've mischaracterized the issue, because that there is one set of laws and rules for everybody means that it was a bad bill that the legislature passed, because the bill was specifically designed to limit the growth of Kiryas Joel by giving the county say over something the county didn't previously have say on and need not have say because it didn't impact county lines. So the governor was absolutely right to veto the legislation, and this young assemblyman, Skoufis from Orange County, sees a future for himself by catering to the anti-Kiryas Joel, anti-Hasidic communities, because he wants to challenge Republican State Senator Larkin, who, in order to inoculate himself, insisted that this bill be taken up in the state Senate. So the governor saved everybody from themselves, and I think it was the right thing. That they're Hasidic and that their practices are discomforting to some isn't the point.
But Michael, I would respectfully question whether the county has or should have some say in this process or some oversight in this process.
Everywhere
Only
or
because,
nowhere.
hang on a second. First of all, let's talk to Michael. I mean, look at the problems that some of the all Hasidic communities in Rockland have had, and I think it would be easy to look at Orange County leadership and say, and put yourself in their position and say, well, we don't want the same problems to develop here that have happened in Rockland.
Which is why, looking at Kiryas Joel, and I do a lot of work with their sister community in Williamsburg, as far as different Hasidic sects go, these folks are aligned. Kiryas Joel has grown and manages themselves to avoid the entanglements involving school districts, monies, and other people's children that East Ramapo and Rockland County seems to have taken a different tack on. So KJ, I believe, has been a good neighbor, and that they look the way they look and that they act the way they act isn't the point. And to the Assemblyman's point, you can't just pass legislation to limit the growth of one village because they're Hasidic. It's not.
Yeah,
it's not appropriate.
I agree. I mean, with both your points, Kiryas Joel is an extraordinarily successful community. I mean, this is a community that's grown since the 90s threefold, and it's really taken off. And it was specifically brought to that area by Rabbi Teitelbaum, I believe,
right,
because to avoid entanglements that occurred in New York City. It's done very, very well. But I do agree at the same point that you can't have different rules for different communities. There's got to be one rules for all. I think counties should be able to weigh in on things.
No community has a right to be religiously based. In other words, the municipal rules.
Is that right?
They're not religiously based.
Wait, no, hold on.
In New York and actually
lives are informed by religion, but they're not religiously
Their
based.
government activities have to be secular.
Of course.
They can live their private lives the way they want. As long as they're doing that, the secular rules that apply to them should be the secular rules that apply to everybody.
Agreed.
If there are abuses where there is an encroachment, of religion on the secular activities. There are ways to deal with that. This isn't the right way.
But
Then
here
I
they were,
misunderstood your earlier point, and I apologize.
but KJ was looking to buy property. They're looking to
Yes.
expand into a wooded property and take that property over. You don't want the county coming in and blocking it just
There
because
are
they're
incorporation
uncomfortable
laws across the state that allow an incorporated village to expand in unincorporated areas.
All right,
Happens
I
in
gotta-
Greenberg, it happens in
I got to get to a break
One
here.
set
By
of
the way,
rules.
Michael, never apologize to Richard. All right, gentlemen, thank
Only
you
when
all
you're
here.
wrong. I'm waiting.
Bourgeois.
I'm waiting.
Coming up next year, was it a computer coincidence or a cyber attack that crippled both the New York Stock Exchange, United Airlines yesterday, and more? Well, we've got a cybersecurity expert straight ahead to weigh in.